Hey guys, it's Nichole Eaton with the Rock Your Soul book and podcast, where we talk about how to hack your mindset, grow your intuition, and live your best life. Welcome back to Rock Your Soul, the podcast. I'm your host, Nichole Eaton, the author of the book Down to Earth Guide to Mastering Your Mind and Soul Therapist. And I am ecstatic to be joined by somebody I've been connected to for quite some time, but we haven't actually had a full-blown conversation where we come together to bring you some awesomeness. So I'm excited to welcome Melendy.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here, Nichole. This is going to be such a fun
I'm so
discussion.
excited. So for my audience who may not be as deep into the spiritual world, can you tell them what like an Akashic astrologer is and does?
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't hear that title much, if at all. It's kind of my own creation.
Well, I love it.
Absolutely. Yes. So, yeah, basically, I am a master astrologer. So, that's basically helping people connect back to their divine soul blueprint, their birth chart, by working with these cosmic energies, these cosmic shifts. And it goes beautifully with the Akashic Records. So, I'm also an Akashic Records practitioner. And basically, just to give some background on the Akashic Records for anyone who is new to hearing this term or maybe have heard about it but don't know much about the records. So, the Akashic Records holds the codes of existence. So, super powerful. Each of us have our own records, which basically is our unique journey of the soul. So when we're tapping into the records, we're tapping into our unique soul journey. It is an energetic realm that we all have the ability to access. And it also connects us deeply to our higher self and to our spirit team, and really helps us rise above the ego, the fear mind, and any attachment basically to like programs or beliefs that are not a match to who we are on a soul level or our higher self. So when we combine the Akashic Records with astrology, it's absolutely amazing. Like it connects us back to our quantum blueprint, what we're really here to do in the world. And it just makes everything on our path flow with greater ease. We feel more supported. It's really amazing to like combine these two sacred tools together.
I am so fascinated by the Akashic Records were new to me as of like 4 or 5 years ago. It wasn't something that I was practicing. And I was just blown away at my first experience. Like, I'm curious, how did you even get into Akashic Records or astrology? I don't actually know your story. What's your story?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I'll like backtrack a little bit and share a little bit about my journey. So, my background's actually in psychotherapy. So I also have my master's in counseling psychology. And since I was a kid, like I always knew I wanted to help people. And I feel like the mainstream route to do that was through counseling. Although like at the same time, I was also drawn to astrology as a kid. I was always like fascinated by astrology. But again, it wasn't, and hopefully this is opening up and like changing now, but at the time it wasn't really like a career path or
Right.
option, right, to go into being like a professional astrologer, a master astrologer. Or I feel like I probably would have chose something like that, but
Absolutely.
I ended up yeah, just going through getting my master's in counseling psych. And I always envisioned myself having like my own practice, having my own business. I also knew pretty early on that I wasn't meant to work like a 9 to 5 or work for someone else. Like I knew that my soul came here to have the freedom to create my own
Yeah.
lifestyle, like a lifestyle that I chose, have a lot of freedom in my routine and my schedule. And I also clearly knew that I came here to like be of service to the world and to help other people. So I did end up going through and working as a psychotherapist for a couple years, but pretty like early on in my practice, I started to bring in the astrological component. So when I would have clients come in, they would fill out a form where I would see like their name and their birth information, and I would use that to pull up their
Yeah.
astrology. And just doing that would actually, like, before I even met them, give me a good idea of what they were all about and who they were. And, not everybody that I saw would be into astrology, but even just for my own, like, having that knowledge and having that awareness really really helped me connect with people in a deeper way. And then over time, like my focus definitely started to shift. Like even within psychology, I was so much more drawn to like the energetic side of things, which is where I feel it all begins,
Absolutely.
right? It's like with our energy. So I was pulled in that direction, and more I started to enjoy the astrology piece. And I saw how much it was helping people to know about their birth chart, which is our divine soul blueprint. So it just brought so much clarity into their life. It helped put like all the puzzle pieces together of like what they're here to do in the world, what they're here to accomplish in the world, their innate gifts and strengths. And I went more and more in that direction. So I kind of got away from the counseling and I went more into like being an astrologer and a coach and really stepping into the online space and sharing these gifts. And how the Akashic records came in is I was actually drawn to this amazing lady online. Her name's Emily Harrison, and she spoke about the Akashic records, and I decided to have a session with her. And it was like shortly after that session that everything kind of changed in my business in the best of ways. Like it was after that session that my yearly income actually
Yeah.
doubled after having that session with her, which was huge, but it also just brought so much more clarity around what I was here to do in the world. And it helped me fully dive in and own like the spiritual side of my business, and that kind of became my business, is like teaching on spirituality. And I loved it so much that I went on to get certified as an Akashic Records practitioner, so I can now help other people like navigate and explore that space. And you know, using that in their business as well. Like I work with a lot of other spiritual entrepreneurs and healers and help them tap into that realm to take their business to new levels and to even connect back to like the energetic blueprint of their business, so they have clarity on who they're here to serve, the programs that they're meant to offer to the world, and just making sure that they're actually aligned with their divine blueprint, which is what they're here to do. And when we align to that, everything in our business flows with ease and our life flows with ease. It doesn't mean we don't have obstacles and challenges, of course, but we just feel like more in flow with the universe, if that makes sense.
A-
Like we just know we're supported.
Absolutely. And I just saw
Yeah.
actually you have a mini series for Soul Aligned Business Expansion. That's free, right?
It is free. It's a free mini series. So anyone listening and they're like, "Oh, cool. I want to learn more about my energetic blueprint. I want to learn more about the records." The mini series is definitely worth checking out.
Yes, and I will drop a link in this podcast description so you guys can access that. But this is so fascinating to me because it sounds like, and I think a lot of people have that like inner knowing when you're a kid of I was
Hmm.
made for more. I was called to do bigger things. I feel really pulled towards this one area of astrology or whatever it is. And I think it's incredible that it sounds like it kind of showed up as a consistent theme for you until you finally just went for it.
It's so true, right? It's like we always get realigned back to our path, I think. Like I was yeah, I was super spiritual as a kid. Well, in my early days it showed up more in the form of religion because that's what was kind of more available for me, but I always had this feeling like there was something more. I was always drawn to energy and spirituality, and like that was very consistent. And yeah, the astrology piece was interesting too, because that's kind of like another side story. But for a while, as a kid, I felt guilty about being drawn to astrology and reading my horoscope because religion would say like that was wrong, or at least that's what I was being taught, right? So I had
Absolutely.
like this feeling within me like, oh my goodness, am I doing something wrong? But at the same time, it's like my soul kept calling me toward it. So it spoke to me. And I feel like we all have that, like maybe not everyone with astrology, but there's a certain like modality or tool that just continues to call to us. And when that happens, I think it's so important that we pursue it because it's obviously it's speaking to our soul for a reason. We're meant to pursue it. We're meant to share it with the world.
I love what you said about just having this maybe a little guilt for feeling drawn to something based on what was available or normalized for you when you were younger. Because I think a lot of people feel
Mhm.
called towards making a change or feel called towards something that is different than what they were taught to believe in. And
Mhm.
how do you come back to really listening to that inner knowing, listening and following through with what you know is good for you?
Mm. Yeah. Oh, it's such a good question. And I think it's a continued practice, like to this day, just coming back to where am I being guided? Where's my heart leading me? And I still have experiences now, although I'm getting better and better at listening to where my soul is guiding me, my intuition. There'll still be times where I put it aside, I ignore my intuition. And anytime I do that, I always regret it. I'm like, I knew in my heart. This is where I was called. So I think as far as like listening to it, it's really developing that deeper connection to ourselves and knowing like how our intuition is speaking to us. And I think that can be a practice in and of itself. Although I do believe that each of us, we know in our heart what's in our highest and best good. We know where we are being guided. And it's more about having the courage to trust it and say yes to it. Have you found that too, Nichole? Just like the courage to trust it is the big part.
It is the big part. And it's so funny because same as you, as there are times, even no matter how long I've been doing this work for, where I will absolutely straight up ignore it.
Mhm.
But it will nudge me every five
Mhm.
minutes until I actually look at it and just honor it. And sometimes, like for me, especially when I was first learning how my intuition was working and learning to trust it, because I think it is a process of trusting it, that I would sit there and I had a notes section in my phone that anything that felt really intentional or magical, or I remember I was in the Adirondacks one day, I'm walking on this path by myself and this swarm of yellow butterflies literally just surrounded me and then left. And I was
Oh,
like, oh, wow. I just had
beautiful.
this moment. It's just these moments where there's something bigger than yourself. And so I personally developed my intuition through tracking all of it so that I
Mm.
could get to a point where I could say, okay, this was undeniable. I had this feeling this happened. I had this feeling on this date, and on this date, this is what occurred. And I think having for the logical brain and somebody who is science oriented, it is harder to connect with spirituality. And I think finding little tips and tricks and tools to create evidence for
Mhm.
that logical part and that human, earthly part of ourselves is so important.
Absolutely. Oh, so true. That is such a good point, right? Because some of us are, and I see that with astrology, right? Some people are much more analytical, logical, and they chose that energy to work with when they came in, right? So I love that idea of like
Absolutely.
finding the evidence and tracking it and even the different ways that we can see our intuition. Like I think another way to see it is like it's our subconscious speaking to us. Like we have all this experience and knowledge, even from our life journey, that we don't always consciously recall, but it's stored somewhere. So we can always, like, our intuition is kind of like, hey, like we've been there before, we know this, and it's just giving us that reminder, right? So for me, like I see intuition as just being such a practical tool as well. And like, no matter what we're doing, the more we're leaning into it, the more we're going to be guided on the path that is right for us.
I love too that you were saying it takes practice, because I think people want to kind of do a one, and I think that's the same with spirituality.
Mhm.
It too is like learning to trust the universe and learning to trust yourself is takes some intentional time to come within,
Mhm.
to get used to adjusting to how your intuition works and how the universe is working with you, and honoring different parts of yourself through that. But I think sometimes people want to, dive right in and have it be like this big magical experience. And sometimes it totally
Yep.
is. But sometimes it's quieter at first.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's softer at first. And sometimes it takes a little more in your face nudging to be like, oh, I've been thinking about that since last June. I guess that is important for me. So
Mhm.
I love that you brought all of that up, because I do think, a lot of people, I'm actually surprised with astrology, because I'm not an astrologer, obviously, but I'm always surprised at how absolutely detailed astrology can get
Mhm.
and how wildly accurate It is
I love it.
when you look at
Oh,
it.
it really is.
When you look
And
at
we're both cancers, right? Are you a Cancerian
it.
too?
Yes,
Yes. That's
yes.
why we connect, our water signs.
Yes.
But it's so true. Like I think, and it's changing now. I feel a shift in astrology. I mean, obviously it's an ancient tool that has been around for so long, but I feel like more and more people are turning to it at this time and going deeper. Like it really, we haven't really captured like the full beauty of astrology. Like when we do our horoscopes, it's just like those are fun, right? When you read those little horoscopes that are for your sun sign, those are fun. But when you actually get into studying your birth chart, it is so detailed. Like it is not vague at all. It's actually completely personalized to you and your journey. So I think it's just a lot of people don't have the full understanding of what's entailed in astrology, and they think it is just our sun sign. So whether we're a Scorpio or a Taurus or like us, we're like a Cancer, but that's just one piece of our chart. And then we also have our moon sign, our rising sign, the planets and the different signs and the different houses. Like there really is so much to it. And I find that's what I love about it. It's also endless learning with astrology. Like I've been studying it for years, probably lifetimes, I'm certain. And it's
Yes.
still like endless learning, and I actually like that. Like there's no cap on how you can go deeper and deeper with this. It's really fun.
Well, and it's fascinating. Why don't you tell everybody your how to connect with you through like Instagram and Facebook? What's the best way to follow you?
Yes, definitely. So I am on Instagram, and it's just you can look up my name, Kara Melendy, and I definitely do a lot of astrological updates on there, whether through my stories or just in little posts, like talking about the planetary shifts. So that's a great way. If you're on Instagram, and then on Facebook, I have a free Facebook group, Spiritual Goddesses Healing the World Together, and I'll often do new and full moon videos. Actually, I do new and full moon videos every month. So for anyone that's wanting to
Yeah.
go deeper, there's info there. And I have a YouTube channel as well with some really great meditations as well as astrological guidance. And that's just under my name too, Kara Melendy.
And it's just so fascinating. And again, you just bring the most loving, beautiful energy to everything that you do. And it just is so calming to know and to understand like, okay, well, this is going on in the planetary system, and this is the way it may impact you. But what I love that you do, Kara, is that you always shift it into an empowered stance, because I have watched some astrologers who kind of make it you leave feeling like, oh God, what's going to happen to me this week? And it's almost that unsettled, anxious, nothing's in my control. And I
Mm.
absolutely love, because you really incorporate the power of manifesting into the astrological components.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Nichole. And that's always how I come at it because I fully believe that the universe supports us. The universe has our back. It's never working against us. So these planetary shifts aren't meant to bring us down. We're meant to co-create with them. And that's one of the things I do talk a lot about in all my videos or all my new and full moon reports. I'll talk about how to work with this energy in the highest expression. And I will share some glimpses into how it can appear in shadow form, just so we have that realization and we can work around it. But we are not a victim to the planets. And I think taking that mindset is just, it's not supportive, it doesn't help us, and it's also just not accurate. Like we're co-creators and we're meant to work with it in the highest expression and use these energies to support our manifesting and to support us on what we're creating in our life. And it's true that some cosmic shifts are more challenging than others. And, there's times, even in my chart, that I'll see this could be a challenging transit, but I don't get locked into the negative of it. I look at how am I going to use this in the highest expression? How am I using this to achieve my goals? Like, never in a way where it's meant to defeat me or bring me down.
As a spirit coming in here in human form, that we are here to grow and we are here to learn more. And I think that growth can look and feel differently than what it is actually doing for us at
Mm-hmm.
times.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to have that awareness and I love that you bring that into people's lives of you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
We can live this out in shadow form. It could look like this, or we could look at what it's doing for you, how it's helping shape you so that you can get to your next level.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do have that choice. And that's where I feel like the Akashic Records has really supported me as well. Like I can study the astrological charts, but then also feel into it into the records, which give the bigger picture. Because, like you said, when we're in human form and we go through difficult times, sometimes it's harder to step back and actually see the blessing in it or see the bigger picture. But when we learn to access the Akashic Records, it gives us that bigger picture. It's like we're transcending just our fear mind or this incarnation, and we're looking at, oh, okay, this is how it all fits together, this is who I am on a soul level, and it just brings a whole new perspective to everything happening in our life.
I love that you use the term blueprint
Mm.
a lot. I love that you use that a lot because when I think of a blueprint, I think of, we don't have the whole picture. We don't have the final destination. We have
Mhm.
the immediate, present in front of us. And that's all that we have the capacity to see. But there is a bigger picture and there is a final destination and there is an overarching plan or idea of a direction that your life is meant to
Mm.
go. And so I think it's really beautiful to use the word blueprint because I think it's so easy to get caught up in your what's happening right now.
Mhm. It is, right? And yeah, I love to talk about blueprint because we do all have a quantum blueprint. And again, we can explore that, I feel, through our astrology is a beautiful way in our birth chart where we start to see the bigger picture. And I do think that's another gift that astrology gives us is it kind of helps us be the observer instead of getting caught up in the drama. Like when we begin to understand the bigger picture of where we are going, where these cosmic shifts are taking us, we step out of the drama or the fear and we feel into that bigger picture. And the same in the records, again, it's like it's tapping into our unique journey of the soul, and we all contain so much wisdom within us and we have access to so much wisdom. And when we enter the Akashic Records, we tap into that and we do connect more deeply to what our blueprint is. And that's what helps people, I feel, in the Akashic Records is one of the main blessings and gifts that come through in that space of getting greater clarity on what that path looks like for us, what we are called to pursue. And there's certainly free will there and there's a lot of options. Like the records gives us infinite possibilities so we can really feel into, okay, like what's the highest possibility and potential for my life and begin to calibrate to that, which is so exciting too. Which is why I love
Yes.
doing this work. And it takes manifestation to whole new levels when we're bringing in our spiritual self, our higher self, co-creation with the universe. Like I feel it gives manifestation a whole different twist.
So how often do you personally go into your Akashic records? Like what is your personal practice with manifestation and accessing that piece of your spiritual self?
Yeah, I go into the records quite a bit. So I do this a lot with clients. So I'm entering their records a lot. But I
Yeah.
also I open my records quite a bit too. Like any new and full moon ritual that I'm doing, I like to do that in the space of the Akashic records. Also, I use it a lot in my business. So anytime I'm creating a new program, I actually go into the Akashic records now and I like to channel it. So it's like what's meant to flow through me into the world at this time. So I love working in the records in that way. And also when I'm launching programs too, like right now with the Lightworkers Rise Academy, I love to feel into that space and just energetically feel into the people that are meant to be here, like the soulmate clients that are meant to join me on this journey. And it's amazing when we feel into the records and can connect in that way with the people we're meant to serve. So yeah, I tap into the records quite a bit for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Can you tell people a little bit more? You've just launched this awesome
Mhm.
program for soulpreneurs called Lightworkers Rise Academy. Can you tell people a little bit about what that is?
Yes. Oh, it's such a beautiful creation. And again, it feels like it was just channeled through me. And I think it's so needed in the world right now where light workers and healers and spiritual entrepreneurs really are rising up. Like they're owning their gifts and they're saying no more hiding, no more playing small. Like it's time for me to step up and own my gifts. So what this program does is really support light workers in elevating their business through accessing cosmic intelligence and combining that with soul aligned strategy. So, doing work in the realm of the Akashic records, learning how to access the energetic blueprint of their business, accessing their quantum blueprint. And when you do that, you begin to magnetize your soulmate clients and you feel more confident in sharing your work with the world. And then the strategy component is like some of the practical stuff, right? The practical 3D stuff we need to grow our business. So that's where I support people with creating packages and programs and pricing around that and how to launch that and share that with the world and like soul aligned selling and branding and all the practical stuff that I feel we do need for a business, but combining that with work in the records, which really helps us accelerate our results and magnetize clients. And it's a magical combination when those two things come together.
I'm so excited for this program because it's all the things. And one of the things that I really impress on clients is that I personally wholeheartedly, deeply, soulfully believe that energy comes first.
Mm-hmm.
And that energy sets the precedence for not only change in your life, but just being able to access your mind. You have to get your energy right to get your
Totally.
mind into a better space. And so that, if we're taking a business and you're taking business ideas and somebody who's wanting to launch something for themselves and something that's on their heart, getting you into an energetic space and giving you all the practical tools, like that's
Yeah.
I'm just so excited for this course for you.
Thank
Like,
you. Yeah, it's so
yes.
true, right? And you don't see the two come together a lot, but that's what I've learned on my journey. Like, if you can have all the strategy in the world, but if you're not backing it with the energetics and you're not actually connected to your blueprint, it doesn't go anywhere. But when we have that access to like what we're here to do, what we're here to share, we're aligned to our blueprint, and then we're using strategy that's aligned for us, that's where we get results in our business. Like that's where it really, really takes off. So I love being able to bring both together for people because that really is where the magic happens.
And, I think it's perfect because I do have a lot of clients and a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are kind of on the verge of starting something. So it sounds like you were able to give them all the tools through this program. And also, guys, I will, like I said, link the mini series, which is there's a 3-part series that you're not going to want to miss. So I will link that both in my Instagram and on the podcast description. But this is so exciting. What would you say for like somebody who is thinking or feeling called to start something in their life, to
Mhm.
start helping people in a new way or to start sharing their gifts, like, but just teetering on the edge of thought of idea of it? Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
Definitely like follow your heart because I really feel if we have a desire to share our gifts with the world to help other people, it's because we're meant to do that. Like our desires are placed in our heart for a reason. So follow that. And a lot of fears I see coming up for healers or light workers that are first just getting into the business world or even just beginning to share their gifts with the world is they feel like there's other people that are already doing it. So is there room for them? And there absolutely is room for you. Like if you have that desire, there are people that are waiting to receive your magic, to receive your work. So to really trust that and to follow that. And, even just beginning by showing up and sharing what's on your heart, sharing your journey, sharing your story, sharing inspiration, just getting used to kind of being not just in like the student role, but also the teacher and the leader role. Because we take on both, right? We're students and we're teachers throughout our journey. So just beginning to lean in a little bit more to what do I have to share? What's on my heart to share? And even if it's scary to step up and do it, because we all feel the fear. But when we take action on it, it's always less scary than what we've built it up to be in our mind. So get out there and share. We need your message.
And I always find that even in like the scariest or most vulnerable shares, even like I said, as somebody who's been doing this for a while,
Mhm.
even in the areas that do feel still challenging, I always find there's somebody who messages and said, I absolutely needed that today.
Mhm.
And so do not underestimate, even if you get two, three likes on it, that two or three people needed to hear what you had to say and that you were positively impacting somebody. And I think that is the biggest thing that you can possibly do is positively leave a positive imprint on somebody's life by being yourself. And I think that's the most beautiful thing you can do is
Mhm.
share yourself, share your heart, share your truth.
Oh, so beautiful. I love that, Nichole. And it's true, right? It is, I think it's one of the best gifts we give to the world because while we're here in our physical body, we're a channel for infinite intelligence. Like it's being expressed uniquely through each of us. So that's a beautiful thing. And it's so true. It's not about the likes. And what I've come to learn as well is there's so many people that are watching and listening that may not be engaging too. There'll be and
Yes.
I've built up my following over the years. I started out with like no one, right? And I've grown it. But
Mm-hmm.
what I found too, like there'll be people that reach out all the time wanting to learn about my services or programs, and I didn't even know they were watching, right? They never engaged. So just trust, right? That your message is reaching who it's meant to. And there's lots of people that are watching that may not be engaging for whatever reason. So, keep showing up, keep sharing.
And I think too, I learned the kind of abundance mindset when it comes to it, when you're interested in something, it does feel like everybody else is also doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's that comparison game or can be in that fear of ego place, that comparison game. But I learned when I was a, kind of traditional mental health counselor, I live in a very small population, but I found that my schedule was always busy
Mm-hmm.
and I found that there were people who absolutely loved me and there were people who absolutely were meant to work with somebody
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
and I think the reality is that you're going to be right for the right audience and you're going to be right for your soulmate clients and the people who need you to
Mm.
speak your truth. And so remembering that no matter how small or big or whatever else, like somebody needs what you have to say. And I always think though, like somebody once said to me, like it's so selfish of you to not share that.
Mhm.
So
True.
I is harsh of words that is like it, make sure you're sharing yourself with the world, like make sure you're sharing your heart and your truth and giving people a chance to see you.
So true. And I forgot you had a background in mental health too. We have so many similarities.
Yes. It's that Cancerian energy.
Yes, right. We want to be of service. And it's so true. I had the same experience. And at first I would think like, oh, is there something wrong with me? Why am I not helping this person or why are we not clicking? But that was never the case. It was just they were meant to find their way to someone else. And the people that were meant to be with me, like they just got so much benefit. So I think that's an important thing we all learn when we begin to share our gifts with the world and offer our services, that for the right people, they are magical. Like it will transform their life. And for the people that aren't meant to, they can find someone else. And it has nothing to do with the quality of your work or who you are. It's just different people are meant for different people, right? At different times. And to really
Absolutely.
be open to calling in your soul tribe. And I feel that's the magic of connecting to our blueprint. And the more we're showing up in our power, right? Like that's again what really turned things around in my business is when I was less afraid to talk about astrology and the records and spirituality because then my soulmate people could actually find me because that's what they were interested in hearing and that's what I was meant to share. So when I was afraid to share that or for whatever reason just wasn't, things weren't clicking the same way in my business, right? But as soon as I like own that, I'm like, wow, things really took off and the results people get are amazing. And it's like when we find that special magic, we're here to share, everything begins to fall into place.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And again, make sure to check out that mini series. I'll make sure I post the link in my description in my Instagram. Check out the Light Workers Rise Academy. It is going to be an incredible shift for so many people. Kara, do you have any last things that you want to say or things that you feel like people need to hear
Yeah, well, this
today?
was such a fun conversation. I guess maybe the main kind of theme that kept coming up is just to really like trust our soul, trust where we are being guided, trust what we're being called to share with the world, and to know how loved and supported we are on this journey. And again, even though it feels scary at times, we're so strong, we're so powerful, we're so loved and supported, and to just show up, right? Show up each day and to share a special message, because there's people who need to hear it.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to have had you on today. Thank you for sharing all your beautiful, soulful wisdom with us. And again, make sure to follow Kara on Instagram. Check out her Spiritual Goddesses Facebook group. And again, I'll link the miniseries and the Lightworkers Rise Academy in the description. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kara.
you, Nichole. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the Rock Your Soul book and podcast. Take a moment to book a one-on-one personalized soul therapy session with me, or catch a live event by visiting www.nicholeeaton.com or follow me on Instagram at nicholeeaton.xo. Thank you.